In the 23rd chapter of the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus issues a strong denunciation against the scribes and Pharisees, condemning their hypocritical practices and teaching about true humility and righteousness. Jesus begins by warning the crowd and his disciples about the religious leaders, advising them to obey their words, but not follow their hypocritical actions. He criticizes the actions of the scribes and Pharisees, who impose heavy burdens on people without fulfilling those same demands themselves. Jesus denounces the leaders' quest for recognition and honor, highlighting the importance of humility. He teaches that the greatest among them must be a servant of all, and that those who exalt themselves will be humbled, while those who humble themselves will be exalted. Jesus rebukes the scribes and Pharisees for their hypocrisy and neglect of the most important aspects of the law, such as justice, mercy, and faith. He compares them to whitewashed tombs, beautiful on the outside, but full of impurity on the inside. Jesus laments over Jerusalem, prophesying its destruction and expressing his desire to gather his people like a hen gathers her chicks under her wings, but they were unwilling. In the 23rd chapter of Matthew, Jesus denounces the hypocritical practices of the scribes and Pharisees, condemning their pursuit of recognition and their disregard for true justice. He teaches about the importance of humility and warns the people not to follow their examples. Jesus laments over Jerusalem's rejection and expresses his desire to gather his people under his protection, but they did not accept him. These chapters teach us about the importance of sincerity, humility, and true justice in our spiritual life. They warn us about the dangers of religious hypocrisy and encourage us to seek an authentic relationship with God, based on truth and loving obedience to his commandments. In the 24th chapter of the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus prophesies about the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem and gives instructions about the end times. Jesus begins the chapter by leaving the temple, and his disciples draw his attention to the magnificence of the building. Jesus responds with a prophecy that not one stone will be left upon another, indicating the imminent destruction of the temple. Specifically, the disciples approach Jesus and ask about the signs of the end times. Jesus warns about false messiahs and prophets who will arise, and says that there will be wars, famines, earthquakes, and persecutions. He encourages his followers to persevere and preach the gospel in the midst of adversity. Jesus speaks about the abomination of desolation, a prophetic reference to the temple's desecration, and urges his followers to be watchful and ready for his coming. He compares his second coming to natural events, such as the days of Noah, when people continued with their daily activities until the flood came. Jesus emphasizes the importance of being prepared, as no one knows the exact day or hour. In the 24th chapter of Matthew, Jesus prophesies about the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem and gives instructions about the end times. He warns about false messiahs and prophets, speaks about the signs of the end, and exhorts his followers to be vigilant and prepared for his coming. In the 25th chapter of the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus tells two parables that emphasize the need to be prepared for his coming and to practice righteousness. The first parable is the parable of the 10 virgins, where 5 are wise and have enough oil for their lamps, while the other 5 are foolish and do not have extra oil. When the bridegroom arrives, the foolish virgins have no way to light their lamps and are left outside. This parable emphasizes the importance of being prepared and watchful for Jesus' coming. The second parable is the parable of the talents, where a man entrusts different amounts of talents to his servants before leaving. Some invest and multiply their talents, while one servant buries his talent out of fear. When the man returns, he rewards those who multiplied their talents and rebukes the negligent servant. This parable highlights the importance of using the gifts and resources that God gives us for His glory. After these parables, Jesus speaks about the final judgment, where nations will be separated as sheep and goats. Those who have helped the needy will be blessed, while those who have not will be condemned. In the 25th chapter of Matthew, Jesus emphasizes the importance of being prepared for His coming and of practicing righteousness. The parables of the 10 virgins and the talents illustrate the need for vigilance and responsible use of the gifts and resources that God grants us. Jesus also speaks about the final judgment, highlighting the importance of loving and serving those in need. These chapters teach us about the need to be vigilant, prepared, and engaged in practicing righteousness and love towards others. They challenge us to use our gifts and resources for the benefit of God's kingdom and remind us of our responsibility to care for those in need around us.